Welcome to The Right Atmosphere, podcast for writers, brought to you by Atmosphere Press, the only publisher that puts rewarding and meaningful author experiences above all else. I'm your host, Hayla Alawi. On this episode, we'll be learning what happens behind the scenes to make book awards a fruitful and legitimate endeavor for authors to pursue with our guest, Jendi Reiter. Jendi is the author of the novels Two Natures and Origin Story, both from Saddle Road Press, the story collection An Incomplete List of My Wishes from Sunshot Press, and 5 poetry books and chapbooks, most recently Made Man from Little Red Tree. Their poetry collection Introvert Pervert is forthcoming from The Word Works in 2026. Awards include 2 Massachusetts Cultural Council Poetry Fellowships, the Oscar Wilde Award from Give All Press, and the Saints and Sinners Literary Festival Award for LGBTQ poetry. They are the editor of the writers' resource site winningwriters.com, where they serve as final judge of the Winning Writers North Street Book Prize for self-published and hybrid published books. Thank you so much for joining me, Jendi.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And especially, I just mentioned you're the judge of the Winning Writers North Street Book Prize. And of course, you're an author yourself. So I really feel that you're uniquely qualified to speak on the topic of book awards because you can come from both sides as you look at it. So I'm really excited to ask you, how do you organize book awards to make sure authors get the most out of the experience of submitting to and, ideally winning those awards?
Oh, thank you for asking. At the Winning Writers North Street Book Prize, which is for self-published and hybrid published books, we're pretty loose in our definition of hybrid, meaning anything where the author pays a significant percentage of the publishing costs, but maybe more selective than straight self-publishing. So we really try to serve a market that gets neglected by traditional publishing and by traditional book awards, which I think tend to already reward books that have been promoted by mainstream publishers. So that's part of what makes our prize, I think, a high quality prize, is that we're specifically looking for authors who are as good as Big Five published authors, but don't have the platform for it. And unlike some contests that serve this market, we actually do give cash prizes. Our fees are competitive with a lot of those other contests, but they generally just give you stickers or, a mention among 200 other winners on their website. We try to make our prize a little more selective by having only 8 genres and only a couple of winners in each genre so that our winners stand out. And we promote them heavily on our Winning Writers social media and give them free ads in our newsletter, which has over 50,000 opt-in subscribers. And all of our entrants who enter online this year receive a free few sentences critique from one of our assistant judges. So those are just some of the benefits that we try to give to really make it worth people's while to go through the expense and the time of sending in a book to the contest.
Yeah, I love that you mention, all these perks that it's really important to offer authors, whether it's for, an author coming from a traditional press, but also for authors that, like you mentioned, are otherwise often getting neglected by various aspects of the publishing industry. But especially mentioning those perks, I think is important because there are so many awards out there, and some of them are more concerned with authors than others. So I think it's really important, especially if you are a self-published or a hybrid published author and you don't have someone to guide you through that process necessarily. It's really important to see those or be able to recognize those landmines, so to speak.
Yeah, I
Um,
think there's really 2 tiers within the publishing world. There's the contests, like I said, that already reward often the big, already things of the platform, and then there's ones that serve the indie authors that are sometimes more exploitative. Another thing that we do for our winners is that we write critiques that are on our website for any of the grand prize, the category winners, and the category honorable mentions, and an essay every year with an overview of what we saw in the entries that we were looking for and that we found positive or negative. And so we hope that by having this huge body of information that other potential entrants can read, that this also gives more transparency into the judging process than a lot of other contests, whether they're the most prominent or the most commercial. And some of the things we talk about in those essays are book design, proofreading, cover design, grammar, style things like not having a lot of mundane scene action that you could do in summary, or the opposite, having too much summary. Often there are certain political pitfalls that writers fall into, body shaming. I can't tell you how many times I've put down and not picked up again an otherwise promising book because of fat in particular being used as a marker for a character being lazy or undesirable or corrupt. That's a pet peeve of ours. Classism, a lot of things that people don't necessarily look at. So we like to not just help our winners, but also educate the general public through our website about how to write books that are more sensitive and more likely to win any contest they enter.
Yeah, I really like that kind of concept of not just helping the winners, but helping writers become better at their craft. Whether it's something that they maybe didn't know about previously, or maybe they didn't take seriously enough, let's say. So I'm really fascinated about all these different aspects of that process. I'm also curious, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, you're of course a writer yourself. I'm wondering, do you find yourself inadvertently trying to pander to what you might think of as a winning novel, or how does that impact your writing process?
My novels are very me, and I couldn't really do something over the long time it takes me to write a novel that didn't feel genuine. Uh, and I feel like really what helps me win is just years of experience with what kinds of contests are going to be receptive to my work. And this is my most recent novel. It's called Origin Story. It's from Saddle Road Press, and it's a gay coming of age novel about a comic book writer who uncovers traumatic memories through writing a superhero comic. And it's also a love story, and it's written in a kind of experimental, multi-textual style. So it's not exactly like something that's easy to commercially categorize. So I have to do a lot of my own marketing, but I feel very proud of it, and I'm very happy with my small press, Saddle Road Press, for the design and the work they've done on it. So I really feel that with respect to contest strategy, for any writer, it's a good idea to just to be selective, to think, okay, this contest involves a trip. Do I want to go to that place? If the prize isn't enough to cover the trip, would I like to go to that place anyway? Uh, and what community do I want to be part of? That for me has become now the guiding light of how I decide to enter contests or submit my work, is who do I want to be in dialogue with? Because I'm a small press writer, I'm not famous, and I'm not going to break even unless I'm very lucky. So, what's success mean to me lately? It means what other writers do I admire, and what other community am I likely to come into contact with by being part of this press or this festival? For example, Saints and Sinners, the LGBTQ poetry contest that I won this year. It was a nice prize. Didn't cover the cost of the trip to New Orleans, but I'm not sorry that I went because it was really a once in a lifetime experience to meet all these other writers and have that safe haven at a time when marginalized writers are feeling under threat politically. And so that's the kind of experience that I'm looking for in order to when I enter a contest. And I think that's a good guideline for writers of any stage of their career, is like, who are my people and who am I trying to reach and who's going to be a good literary friend and citizen to me? How can I be a good literary friend and citizen to other writers in my community?
Yeah, I really like this idea of making the award fit you rather than making yourself fit the award.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, different authors are going to prioritize different things. And also, if you're being so truthful to your own artwork, chances are that's more likely to resonate with someone, whether it's
Mhm.
a reader or whether it's a judge.
Mhm.
So I really like that perspective on it. And then
Yeah,
one
I
other
think so.
thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think as a judge, I feel the same way. When I read a book by someone who's just really passionate about their special topic, and if they tell it in an interesting way, like, yes, give me 200 pages about, what it's like to be a mailman. I really want to know something specific about a place, a person, a job. I love books about a job, because then I'm learning something and I feel like it's in real life. So I would say don't make your books generic. Uh, Especially with genre fiction. Don't make your stuff something I've seen before. Like, go lean into the weird as long as it's well crafted and has good narrative, be more you.
So, have you learned anything about writing or your own self as a writer from being a book award judge?
Oh, definitely. It's hard to turn off the judging mind when I'm doing the draft and think, oh, this has to move along faster and faster, because as a reader, I read very quickly, and as a writer, I write very slowly. And so my own books feel like they take forever. And so that's like the downside of having that editorial mindset. I think the upside is I have learned a lot about book structure and pacing from having to read hundreds of books, thinking about where they might go wrong or when something works well. What is it? How do they get to the good parts quicker? And that doesn't mean a book has to be very plot heavy. It just means everything has to have a reason for being where it is.
Before we say goodbye to our guest, I'm happy to say that this episode is brought to you by Atmosphere Press, the only publisher that puts rewarding and meaningful author experiences above all else. Founded in 2015 by an author and PhD in literature, and devoted to serving authors through editorial, design, publication, and promotion, Atmosphere has sold tens of thousands of copies of their authors' books across 6 continents. Visit atmospherepress.com to sign up for Atmosphere's newsletter, The Launchpad, and to learn about submission opportunities, event news, and free book, publicity, and writing residency giveaways. I love that. Yeah, these are such fascinating insights. I've never actually had this kind of conversation before, so I'm just excited to hear about all of this from you. I also want to make sure I, let everybody know. But Jendi, where should our listeners go if they want to learn more about your work and what it is that you do?
Well, to find out more about Winning Writers, go to winningwriters.com. That is our main source of all the information for you as a writer to enter contests and to sign up for the free newsletter. When you sign up for the free newsletter, you get access to the database of the best free literary contests and North Street Book Prize and any other contests that we have 4 contests, not all of which are open all at the same time. We have the humor contest, which is free, and the North Street Book Prize, and a regular poetry prize, and a regular fiction and essay prize. So go to winningwriters.com to find that stuff. We're not on X anymore because, they ruined it. So we're on Blue Sky and Facebook for our social media. Everything's at Winning Writers. And we're also on Instagram, and we're also on Reddit. So you really can't get away from us, honestly. I am at jendireiter.com. This is how you spell my name. And you can find my books there. And you can find me on X if you want to look at lots of cat pictures, because that's mostly what I retweet these days. So that's where we are.
Well, that's the content I want to see on X, so I'm excited about
Definitely.
that. But for now, thank you again so much, Jendi, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Right Atmosphere, the Advice for Writers podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave a review and share this podcast with the writers in your life. And if you're ready to take the next step in your publication journey, visit atmospherepress.com to submit your manuscript for publication consideration or to learn more about writing and what it is that we do. I'm Hala. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.